started. Don't get me started,
Power
guys.
girl, power
No,
girl,
not
power
one
Now,
girl.
now, and
hater.
honestly, for 2 seconds, like all the other 52, I like the art. That's cool. Like it's all like different and exciting. But Power Girl, no, that was it. That was the last straw. That was the last straw.
Yeah, I absolutely hate it. If it's related to the New 52, I've come to accept that none of those characters, no matter how much they resemble our real DC Universe characters, I do not accept them. I thought it was going to be temporary, maybe a year. Then afterwards, they realized, like, remember when Image did Heroes Reborn for Marvel
Oh
and
God.
it flopped? And they decided to go back and
Yeah.
called it Heroes Return.
And
We
to
need a
this day,
Heroes Return in DC.
and to this day, Marvel fans still don't say it's a reboot. It's a reboot. They don't want to admit when they try to reboot something, or restart.
Oh,
And I'm curious how they feel now, considering the new announcement. Remember, I made this statement on Facebook a couple of weeks ago when I first had
yes.
a feeling, and everyone thought I was nuts. They were shooting me down. I was right. Boop, there goes Marvel Universe. How do you take your A-list Avenger team, Marvel, Thor, and Iron Man, and replace them with a female team full of B and C listers? Dazzler? How much more are you going to diminish? So what are you telling me? Dazzler's just as good as Cap? Thor
uh,
are you guys? Is Marvel serious now? How far is their liberal agenda going? I mean, it just. I mean,
Daryl,
I
do
was
you, do you
frustrated
think
with
this is a
DC,
way
but Marvel
to
just blew it out of the water.
to
Marvel
just
blew it out of the water with this.
be able to hire a lot of young writers and you know just a lot of people that don't have to worry about the backstory? It's just a way to move quicker because if you start from scratch now, you don't have to do any research. There's no homework. You just move ahead. You don't have to pay comic book experts. You could get anyone that could write to basically write.
it's lazy writing. Garbage in, garbage out. Those of
Okay.
us who are old school collectors will not pay $4 per comic book for garbage because there are writers out there who are too lazy to do research, have no clue of the backstory of these characters, and they're just doing whatever they want. That's the reason why I don't collect New 52. After that first year, I was done. When you look at the ending of the Green Lantern series under Jeff Johns' watch, his last two stories, Rise of the Third Army and that Revenge of the First Lantern garbage, that was the most boring garbage I had ever seen from Jeff Johns. He ought to be ashamed. He needs to go back to the drawing board. Ever since they made him a suit instead of keeping him as a writer, he has completely changed. He is just going along to get along. I loved him as a writer, but when he became one of those executives or whatever, vice president, creative opera, whatever garbage title they gave him, he has not been the same. The quality of his work is almost as bad as a lot of the current writers now who are lazy. I don't think they should be taking shortcuts when it comes to writing about these characters. My expectation of these writers is that they should have a thorough knowledge of these characters and that they can pull up new stories, develop subplots based on that background. That is the very reason why JSA, under its first run, was so successful because they pulled from old stories either that were unfinished or subplots that they could build upon, and they made great stories from it. In fact, JSA went on to become one of the top selling books in the DC line until all of this other garbage started with Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, and then this garbage we have right now called the New 52. You can pull from old stories. You can create or further build upon what has gone before. But it takes discipline, and good writers know how to make the most of the history and the continuity that has gone before them. The problem with a lot of these writers today is they want to take shortcuts because they're more focused on reaching the deadline than they are giving out quality work. I don't even know who the writers are on Marvel or DC anymore. They're hard to recognize. And even Gail Simone has fell off a little bit because she's going along with it because she needs a paycheck. And I could tell in the quality of her work. And she was one of my favorite writers before all this New 52 garbage happened. But the remaining staff they have now, when you really look at it, the old school writers and the brilliant writers they've had in the past, they've all left. They're no longer with DC and Marvel. So they got all these new people here working for these companies, and they're unwilling to take the time that the previous writers and veteran writers has taken great care with these characters and developed them. And all they've done is just simply threw them in there and just made up a story. And that's not good enough for me.
Well, you just
and that's not good
brought
enough
up a really good point. Being such a passionate comic book collector, does this push you to get a lot more independent work?
I look at a lot of
and which ones? I have to follow that up with which ones, if it does.
Dynamite Entertainment for a while were on a roll. There were comic books I never thought I'd touch until they decided to work on. The Lone Ranger was one of the best written stories. Zorro was well done. $6 Million Man. They also pulled up some obscure World War II like superheroes from the past as well that they always existed, but no one knew until they brought them back, and they brought on Alex Ross to work with them on that series. I wish they continued with it because they were on a roll, and it reminded me a lot of the JSA, the Justice Society of America, for you viewers out there who might not know what I meant by that. But I'm saying that you can, even with the right writer, you can make even the weakest character, the most lamest character out there in any of the product lines look good. Jeff Johns did that in the past with several characters. But now under the New 52, all of it is just garbage. And the histories are so convoluted now. It's almost like they're trying to force feed or explain away why things are. Let me make one major point I find that's been problematic for some time with the mindset of a lot of people is that they want to put the concept of their perception of reality into works of fiction. That's why they don't work. It's fiction. It's not reality. And the problem with people who are so focused on reality when it comes to movies and these comic books is they put a limitation on creativity. If we really want to be realistic per se, Superman has no business flying. Superman has no business having superpowers if we want realism when it comes to these movies and these superheroes. But then they want to incorporate their version in certain areas to make it realistic. I just have a problem with that because if it's fiction, keep it fiction. You don't have to feel obligated to put your perception of reality into it to produce a quality work of fiction.